Devdutt Pattanaik is one of the most famous mythologists of our time. He's an author of over 40 books for adults and children, including the bestsellers Jaya, My Gita, and Business Sutra. Devdutt writes and speaks extensively on relevance of mythology in modern times, especially in areas of management, governance, and leadership. Hi Devdutt, thank you so much for agreeing to spare your time for us. You have been nurtured on the traditional wisdom through your study of mythology, different cultures over a period of time. And I hope that we are able to distill your wisdom for parents to understand and make sense of life.
Sure.
So you were a chief belief officer, a very innovative title in any corporation. And then you've consulted several organizations on aligning belief within the organization. What does aligning belief involve, and is it necessary?
No, I don't think I ever aligned belief. I've never written anywhere I've said about aligning belief. That's a very Western construct. That's a classical missionary approach to life, that I will align your belief to mine as a classical management language, which is basically based on evangelism. That is, which is very popular even in the corporate world. They keep using this word evangelism, which is basically replacing your idea with mine because my idea is better than yours. That is not the Indian way, and that is certainly not what a chief belief officer's role was. The idea of a chief belief officer is to excavate and understand what your belief system is, so that you are able to appreciate other people's belief systems. It is not based on evangelism. Evangelism is based on replacing other people's beliefs with what they consider to be a better belief. There is no such thing as a better belief. Every human being has a belief. We have to understand what this belief is and how that shapes their behavior, and hence how it impacts business. That's the classical Indian approach that I write about. So it's a fundamentally different concept. Unfortunately, the moment people hear the word belief, they think of evangelism because we are shaped, controlled globally in all corporations by a very Judeo-Christian approach to management. Which is, well, it has its benefits, but it has its costs also.
So it's mainly, from what I gather, it's basically understanding what, in the first place, what your belief is, and understanding what the other person's belief is, and accepting these two, even if they are different, accepting the two to be separate from, what your idea of ideal is, and then trying to find a balance in order to have, a better organization. Is that what it is?
Well, that is part of what you said is right. The moment you say accept your belief, it means you assume your belief is static. Belief is not static. Our belief is constantly expanding. Even when you use the word ideal, you see, this is what has happened. We are so conditioned in the Western way, we don't catch it. Because the Western way is there is a right belief, and we are all, it's indexing. There is a perfect belief, and we are, deviating from this index one. And that is a perfect belief. But in Indian model, what we are saying is that you have, first, in order to establish a relationship, I should know what your belief is. And then the purpose of the relationship is to accommodate your belief system, which means expanding my belief system and encouraging you to do the same. So that is like a relationship, right? When I see another person, I understand what his belief system is. Then I see, oh, there's a Venn diagram. Some things are common, some things are not common. How do I expand my way of thinking to include them and gradually encourage them? First, I have to include, and then encourage the other to reciprocate. This is a very different model from trying to achieve a target, which is the ideal belief system put forward by a CEO.
And it sounds very profound and looks very difficult, because when you have a target or an ideal in mind, you can always, work towards it. But when you don't have any specific target and an ideal, then how do you work? So how does it look practically when you start to use this concept?
Look at all good marriages in the world and you will understand it immediately. And all bad marriages, you will see objective-based management, where the husband has decided everybody should believe the way I should. It's called patriarchy. Or the quivering husband in front of the wife who agrees whatever the wife says. And that is not a healthy relationship, because they are not expanding each other's view. And I think that's corporation is not the right place to look for healthy relationships, right? At least in the current form.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, any popular examples for families to learn from this?
I always tell people when people are talking about modern management, remember World Wildlife Fund recently released a document saying that 50% of wildlife have been destroyed in the last 40 years. What happened in the last became increasingly industrial and urbanized. What allowed this increased industrialization and urbanization from taking place? Modern management techniques which were objective based. They were not consequence based at all. They didn't think in terms of consequences. Everything is about achieving the target. Nobody looks at consequences because the shareholder doesn't care for the shareholder consequence. And therefore the climate change is happening, all this is happening, but nobody is taking responsibility for it. Who is taking responsibility? Because you have decided, I have achieved my target, I have done a good thing. So why are you now suddenly saying I am responsible for climate change? And therefore this modern management, which we call modern, is actually based on a Western construct, which has never considered the concept of consequence. And consequence, which is karma, is the fundamental principle of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, mythologies which emerged in India and spread to other parts of the world.
Yeah, and this is a very significant lesson for families also, because most modern families have parents working in the modern corporate world.
Yes.
And so we obviously imbibe those principles and think that to be the right way. And you're saying the being knowledgeable about the consequences, or being aware of the consequences, is a very important thing, because even for parents and families, we realize that you're not aware of the actions you're doing right now, and then only when a child becomes a teenager and the problem starts to come up where there is a tussle, we get aware and cognizant of what, or rather we have to react. So
see, let's ask ourselves a family, what is the family objective? If the father is focused on his targets, the mother is focused on her targets, and the child is focused on his report card, that means neither of them thinks each other is of consequence. They are not saying we have an objective of enabling each other to be happy people and becoming better human beings. That is not the objective at all. The office objectives of the parents and the school objectives of the child is the paramount, and there is a consequence to it. Because relationships don't evolve. You become roommates. You are just roommates sharing a flat and a kitchen together in a civilized manner. You don't fight with each other, so it's a happy family. But really, you don't know each other. You don't know each other's insecurities, what they desire, their fears, because everybody is now afraid of being vulnerable. And of course, when you meet on a dinner table, all three have their screens in front of them. Each one is sending WhatsApp messages to three other people in the room, and therefore you start asking yourself, there's a consequence to it. It's not good or bad. It is a choice, and that choice has a consequence. So, uska karma hota hai. And we have to understand this idea of karma. Karma is non-judgmental. The action has a reaction. And you have to ask yourself, what is the reaction of being focused on our objectives and focused on our screens? And how will the children over time, how will our families evolve because of that? What happens as a result of this isolation? Because it is creating a sense of isolation. It is creating people not knowing how to be vulnerable in front of each other. People not expressing their desires, and therefore you hide and you start hiding. And I don't think this is a positive impact over time.
Yeah, you're making a very strong and significant case for investing in building a culture in a family. And culture is generally defined by, as you say, stories, rituals, and symbols.
Yes.
And like you just mentioned about screen, the modern stories are mostly coming from, media, mass media, which are rooted in corporate agenda. And it's not something definitely that is helping build a strong family culture. I remember a ritual that you talked about of doing rangoli in India, which has a very significant impact on the psyche of the people who are part of it, which is not being too attached to what you create, or not to being too attached to your creations. Are there any such significant rituals that you think need to be revived now in the modern families?
See, there are simple rituals. I always say the Rangoli ritual was like brushing the teeth of the house. We take a bath every day, we freshen ourselves. how do you freshen the house every day? You sort of do something at the doorstep of the house. Either put a flower, put a lamp, put a rangoli. These are simple rituals. Every family has a set of rituals. A ritual could be lighting of a lamp at the end of the day to mark the end of the day. If the day is coming to an end, it's time to gather around and chat and discuss what happened during the day. Do we have a family ritual which says that we'll sit together and discuss each other's life in that particular moment? Do we discuss? Does the family have a reading time when we all sit together and read books and discuss what we have read? Do we have a weekend ritual where for at least 2 hours we don't watch videos and television or any screen? We look at each other, even if it quietly, and chat about things that we don't normally chat about. I think these should be simple rituals that we can follow in our house, which is rhythmic in nature and which doesn't really have an agenda as such. There's no agenda. It is just hanging out, figuring out, doing things together. It could be, let's cook the evening Saturday meal together, or let's cook the Sunday breakfast together, and let's make an offering to a deity. Because then you start realizing there's something forces larger than you in the world. Everything is not in your control, and everything is not measurable. And therefore, it sort of makes you aware of uncertainty and things that are not in your control, and you're okay with that. I think these kind of rituals have to be designed. Nowadays in the modern world, because we're traveling all over, there is no sense of stability. We're living in different countries, we're dealing with different people. We have to construct our own rituals and rhythms that helps us create a good family.
Yeah, so a rhythmic ritual.
Ritual by definition is rhythmic. It has to be rhythmic. Rhythm plays a very important role. Time has to be taken. You can't do it once in a while.
Yeah. And how significant then you think is mythology in current high-tech global village?
Well, mythology is whether it's high-tech, low-tech, old, new, it's always there. So, for example, you see how capitalism shapes rituals, right? All ritual is about gift giving today. Yeah, so it sort of feeds into the capitalist notion that if you get things, having things make you happy. Yeah. And therefore everything is revolved around giving a thing, we don't, or just sending a WhatsApp message using a bot, that your birthday messages, I've done my task. So it's task oriented, it's thing oriented. It is not, connection relation, getting attention from people you care about, spending time with people you care about, recognizing that there are people you care about and you need in your life. I think these factors need to be increasingly considered.
Yeah, so it's a very consumeristic society that we are living in. It's like keep calm and shop on.
Yeah, because you see, we have not understood rituals. We are trying to understand all rituals using a materialistic tone. And modern mythology is that problem solving. That is the big mythology right now. The world, life is a problem and we have to solve it. And that's a classical management jargon. What is the problem we are trying to solve? So, family is also a problem, relationship is also a problem, money making is a problem, shopping is a problem. Everything is a problem that needs to be solved. So, you're seeking efficiency in everything. You're in Singapore, right? Land of efficiency. Yeah. Everything is about being efficient. Yeah. And we are suddenly forgetting, life becomes about efficiency. So it is the corporate mythology that is feeding into personal lives. Even our life has become like an Excel sheet. Our family time has become a timetable with minutes per month. Let's do a pie chart of minutes spent with mommy and minutes with daddy and minutes spent with friends. So that is the mythology that is seeping into our consciousness today. And what happens when this happens? The people break away and they can't talk to anyone. They move towards radical religions. They move towards the extreme form of Hinduism, extreme form of Islam, extreme form of Christianity. And that is what you're seeing on the rise right now. All the people are feeling lonely and vulnerable. They don't have anyone to talk to. They want something to connect to. So they're going towards this. They're not going to this the average Hinduism. They're going towards very violent form of Hinduism, violent form of Buddhism, violent form of Islam. The regular Islam is gone. The day-to-day chatty Islam, which we grew up with. At least in India, we grew up with so many. Today, all is about Wahhabism and all these kind of violent forms. Yeah. So even the gentle forms of religion are no longer exciting because we are looking thrill.
Yeah.
And meaning is coming through violence.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that the modern mythology says that life is a problem that we need to solve.
Yes.
So this is not the way you're intending to say is that this is not the way we should look at life. Then from
Well,
tradition.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that is a option. That is the myth that people are in. And it is an option. They can stay there. It has a consequence.
So what is an
That,
alternative to looking at life as then?
well, imagine if all the time you're looking at life as a problem, you can never be happy, right?
True. And that's the cause of all the worry.
It's like looking at a tree and saying, oh, this tree is not right. There's a problem with the tree. Let's improve and make the tree more efficient. Which is what bioengineering is all about, right? You're not happy with the tree. You want the mango to come in, not in the summer only. Why can't it come in winter? That's a problem. I've constructed a problem. Nature becomes the problem. My body is the problem. So I have to continuously design my body. Old age becomes a problem. Death becomes a problem. The things which are natural have become a problem. This is what science has made the world. This is the modern, this is the Western way science has been constructed. Because remember, science emerged 14th, 15th century in Europe. And this technological approach, that the purpose of science is to solve nature's problems.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous, hurtling towards it, which is an option.
Yeah. This brings me to, like, Indra is something like what the modern day people are, who have Kamadhenu, like who have everything, all the privileges they have, but still not happy.
Here you have Indra, who is the king of the gods, but he is not worshipped at all. There are no temples to Indra anywhere in India. He has lost, and how do they describe him? They describe him as having everything in the world, but always being insecure.
Yeah.
So he's an insecure god. So God as an insecure god, this concept of course people don't understand, but it is Devas. He is the king. He has everything in the world. He has Kalpataru, Kamadhenu, all the wonderful things in the world, but he's an insecure god. Now, when you read this description, it sounds familiar like most of the people we know. Aren't you supposed to be secure when you have all the money in the world?
Yeah.
Aren't you supposed to be secure when you're the most powerful man in the world?
Yeah.
And that's not true.
That's
and so that is Indra. So we suddenly see, oh, there's the Indra. And they all feel entitled. They feel they owe nothing to the world because they're born in, or they've acquired that kind of wealth and power. And I have a right to be mean and rude. I have a right to be obnoxious.
Yeah.
And you see this all the time. And Indra is described as, when the rishis come to meet him, he ignores them. He's busy watching the apsaras dance and music. So he's like lost in luxury and not paying attention. He doesn't have any role. He's happy just living ayash. So this sounds like people, you see that the party culture. We have all the money in the world and partying all the time because that is the purpose of life.
Yeah. An alternative to that is Vishnu, that you say, whose life, and you have a very interesting analogy of Ranabhumi in Indra's life versus Rangabhumi in Vishnu's life.
Yes. You see, when you go to the corporate world, it's a dog eat dog world, right? They use these words. These are in India, it's called Matsya, law of the jungle. Celebration of violence. That is Ranabhumi. Look at how the corporate language is. We have to achieve the target. We have to gain market share. We have to capture market share. We have to penetrate the market. These are all violent languages which are being used on a daily basis and we have been told that's a good thing. I want to be the dominant entity. I want to control the market. All language of Ranabhumi, violence. They are not about performance, which is Rangabhumi. Rangabhumi is about performance. You are on stage, you are entertaining the audience. You are performing to make the audience happy. So who is the audience? The child is your audience, your husband is your wife is the audience, your customers are the audience, your boss is the audience. You are continuously doing things to delight people. So, these words are not really understood. In the Western world, it's a very competitive, violent, they've all become like that. And it's being marketed as something healthy. Which I think, it is like once, the problem is, we don't realize that the idea of diversity. That, yes, that is a great idea, but can there be other ideas? It's like the classical Western dish is one dish kept, and you eat that dish. But in Indian, it's a thali. You have many dishes, and you then choose and pick and choose, which you see in a Korean. When you go to a Korean restaurant, there's so many sauces to eat. You select which sauce you want. So this approach of diversity is not there today. We are being sort of streamlined and herded into one way of thinking. We should be careful.
Although modern research in fields like psychology and sociology are also now pointing towards this traditional belief and rooted in wisdom, traditional wisdom of allowing other people to have their opinion and accepting, different points of views and being diverse for a society.
50 years ago, psychology didn't think like that. Today, it's thinking like that, and therefore now knowledge has changed. But everybody knows that diversity matters. Diversity is a new discovery of the West.
Yeah.
We have discovered diversity. Oh my God, what a new thing. For the millions of years, nature has thrived on diversity, but science discovered it in the 21st century.
Yeah, we are only able to support with pure research and data only now, right? So that's a limitation of human ability and mind, though.
Well, not really. It is always there. It is the arrogance of the scientist which says that only information that comes from my methodology is to be approved. So that is an arrogance that I will not accept traditional wisdom, only that which will come through my methodology. So that's a very narrow view of the world. It's complete rejection of everything. The tribes of the world have been telling this. The cultures, religions of the world. Everybody is wrong. Only I am right. And this approach is this whole monotheistic, monotheistic approach. My method is right. My belief is right. And this is what the Indian traditions have always rejected. Be careful. Be careful of this dominating alpha approach, which has led to colonization, industrialization, urbanization, which is dangerous. And now, only when we are on the brink of climate issues, we are asking these fundamental questions about other cultures, about
this tussle and even within relationships is because of this attitude of ours as to me and mine. So it's like me and mine versus you and yours. And even like Mahabharata, I suppose, is based on this tussle about me and mine and you and yours. And within parenting and family circles right now, you see this also emerging between me and my children and their achievements to be posted on Facebook and getting this kind of trophy or ego boost towards this. Where is this going to lead us to?
See, you've heard of this concept of trophy wives and trophy husbands, trophy children. Well, the children don't matter for themselves, but they matter for their achievements. Wife doesn't matter for herself, but for her beauty or her achievements. Husband doesn't matter for himself, but for his wallet size and his achievements. It is the most lonely space you can talk about. Because the person is not, there is no awareness of the other, and they don't feel it, others are looking at them. So there is basically no darshan, the concept of darshan. When you go to a temple, you look at a deity, the deity looks back at you. This being seen is the greatest tragedy of the world. We want, is that we have not realized that life is about seeing the world, seeing others, seeing diversity, recognizing that different people think differently, recognizing that the world is made of all kinds of things in the world. This is missing in our lives today. And in their absence, in our loneliness, we string to me and mine, me and mine, me and mine. Because it is an indicator of extreme loneliness and isolation. And the inability to handle others, almost a fear, oh my God, this person will come and destroy my peace of mind. And therefore I want to sort of isolate myself into this lonely crucible.
Yeah, and so when you say darshan and looking at other, means looking at other with both your eyes, ears and your mind as well, and accepting him or her into your life. I also realize that in Hindu mythology, there are gods and goddesses, and gods and goddesses have children. And there is a very interesting picture of Shiva and Parvati's family, of Shiva, Parvati and their two children, and their vehicles. And you have made a very interesting observation on what this picture in itself can teach us. Could you please say that for us, the parents?
You see, the relationships are so important that God cannot exist without relationships. You see, this whole idea of one God without any relationship, the only relationship is the creation. There is no connection. In India, relationships were important. Therefore, gods had friends, they had enemies, they had husbands, wives, spouses, children. They quarreled with their children. Their husband-wives quarrel. So the whole household manifested in the divine space. It was not a teacher or a judge deciding how you're supposed to live. It was the engagement between husband and wife, lovers, children, parents. Kartikeya runs away from the Shiva's house and refuses to talk to Shiva. Ganesha, the sibling rivalry happening. All these stories are trying to show the joys of household life. That life, it's talking about the household and the importance being given to the relationships. Something that you don't find in many cultures around the world. In most cultures, the relationship is about instruction. I will tell you what to do and you will do. And that is not a relationship. I will tell you what to do. This instructive, scolding all the time. Like a school teacher. And many parents think that they are just school teachers with more rights of the child, which is not true. Your job is not to school your child. Your job is to have a relationship with your child.
Yeah. And for relationships to have sound relationships, you need good communication. And there are
many things. A relationship is a complex thing about spending time with each other. It's not about telling people. It's not just about obedience. It's not just about tasks. It is about just chatting and recognizing each other's vulnerabilities, recognizing each other's desires, recognizing each other's yearning for meaning and what is the meaning? What do I want to do with my life? And a child says that, it's a very difficult thing because you don't have an answer. Maybe you don't know the answer to life. And both of you will have to figure out, this is what I did, and this is what your grandfather did, and this is what your uncle did, and I don't know how you're going to live your life. And the anxieties of the parents come the child, the anxieties of the child come the parent.
Yeah. And it's heartening to know that even Kartikeya ran away from the house. So it's not just something that happens only today. And we shouldn't be very, getting panicked about some things happening around like that.
Yeah.
Because this is.
So even Ram cannot keep his wife at home, and his children are living separately from him. There are single mothers and single fathers in Ramayana and Mahabharata. Shakuntala is raised by a single father. Lava and Kusha are raised by a single mother. Pandavas are raised by a single woman, Kunti. So it's, all these ideas are there. There are two men raising children. So Nara and Narayan raise Urvashi. There are multiple women. The Kritikas raising one Kartikeya. So a household of many women raising one child. So all kinds of alternate family structures exist.
So it really needs to be one needs to plunge into the stories of mythology and find out something that resonates with their life and time right now.
Yeah, and to recognize the principles of it, the fundamental principles. You won't find everything in it, but you find what is the principle, what is it trying to say. The fundamental thing in Indian mythology is life is a lot of emotions, and you have to deal with these emotions. And it is what you find missing in Hindu mythology is the absence of commandments. There is no concept of commandment. There is absence of judgment. So there is a rule and commandment. You live in Singapore. It's a culture where everything is organized and regulated. These ideas don't exist in Hinduism.
That makes life simpler and easier to live, though.
Well, it's also complex and chaotic. India is complex and chaotic because there is not so much importance given to rules. There is not so much importance given to judgment. And it's all about accommodating, expanding. You getting angry, sorting things, creating mess, unraveling mess, enabling people to deal with complexities.
There are 3 things about communication that you speak in your talks stand out for me in terms of communication in families. And I would like you to elaborate on them for the parents and families. One you call as samvad or manthan, which is the churning versus tug of war. So when there is a debate or discussion happening, it's a churning, and you look at it as churning, not tug of war.
Yeah, it is, when people are trying to impose their point of view shouting loudly, it means you're not interested in the other person's point of view. And you assume that your point of view is the right point of view. That means you're fixed. You're not trying to, but manthan or samvad is where you listen to other people's point of view, listen, reframe and speak again. You're not trying to convince other people that you are right. You're trying to learn from other people and helping them to learn from you. And therefore, at the end of the conversation, both of you have a better idea of the world. But I think somewhere along the line, our ego comes to play, and in all we try, I'm right and you are wrong. And that approach, unfortunately, even if you think you know more, most of the time you have to deal with people who know less. And that's the tragedy you have to deal with in life.
So it's more of exchange and understanding, and in the process both grow. The other which is very complementary to this thought is your concept of bhag and bhagavan. What you say in modern language is that you have to understand other person's point of view or other person's perspective. But you say it in almost like a pizza-like manner, like, if it's a pizza, you have one share and I'm looking at one part of it, and none of us is looking at the whole thing, and so it could be very different to convince each other. So it's good to acknowledge this.
Yeah, but pizza assumes this complete that there is nothing common between us. A Venn diagram is better. A Venn diagram where something's common, something's uncommon, and a circle which is constantly expanding in different directions. So we have to recognize that, and I think Bhag is recognizing that we are finite, and none of us is infinite. Bhagavan is infinite, but we are finite. I am finite, you are finite, and this is very important to recognize.
And okay, you are a strong advocate of telling stories to children, and you
Yes.
say that parents should tell stories and even have a conversation after the stories with children. In your book, you mentioned, the latest book, you mentioned that stories are like chocolate eclairs, where you have to chew on it till you reach the center.
Yes.
So what will be your advice to parents for this?
It's like, this is one of the books I wrote for children. It's called The Girl Who Chose, Ramayana for Children. So that when you read the Ramayana, people are conditioned to think in a particular way. But when you read the Ramayana, you realize it's a story of choice. One girl's choice. In the Ramayana, Ram never makes choices. Sita is the one making all the choices. It's a love story between a man who cannot make a choice and a woman who makes choices. Now, it's a very different way of looking at the Ramayana, but I have not changed the story. It's the original story. I have just reframed it. But when you chew long enough, you recognize all these things. Or, for example, the Mahabharata, which is the boys who fought, which is how, we all fight, but there are different situations in which we fight. The Pandavas and the Mahabharata fight as refugees. They fight as exiles. They fight as warriors. They fight as kings. They fight as orphans. They fight as hermits. So, in different situations, they're fighting, but every fight is different. So, you have a conversation on fighting. This conversation on choices. Ramayana enables you to have a conversation on choice. Mahabharata enables you to have a conversation on fighting. I think these are things that I think when you have these lovely conversations, the children will become wiser. And there's no one answer. Every time you argue and you find a better meaning, there is no one objective. There are multiple ripples.
Yeah, for this though, for getting the wisdom to children though, parents will have to bite and chew on your chocolate eclair before giving it to the children.
Yes, because I think parents are trying to outsource parenting to the teacher, to the governess, to the state, to the books, to writers, but then you can't outsource everything. It ultimately has to flow through you, because the child connects with the parent the most. And if the child doesn't connect with the parent, then there is a problem in the relationship.
Yeah, it's like outsourcing gardening to somebody else, and the garden becomes less and less of your own.
Yes. So while yes, you may not have the time, but it must be your garden, and therefore you must invest at least some time, if not all time, in the process of making the garden.
I have 5 quick questions for you now, for parents to benefit from, and the key takeaways. What would you say to the modern society parents who do not believe in myths and mythology?
That they are just not aware that they live in myths, and it is time to increase their awareness.
Can you share 5 stories that you would recommend every parent to tell his or her child?
I think the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and compare it with the Iliad, Odyssey, and the Bible. Compare and contrast these stories.
And 5 stories that you would want every parent to read for himself or herself.
I think the Ramayana and Mahabharata contain more than 5 stories, and I think that is the first starting point. But the Iliad, Odyssey, and the Bible, you have to read, because in the global village you need to understand Greek mythology, biblical mythology, and Indian mythology.
So these 5 stories are actually raised to infinity in terms of number of stories that you're sharing.
Yes.
Your books actually for children are actually good for parents as well, because if parents read those books, and then they would be able to better give perspective on the stories that they possibly have not understood themselves to children.
Yeah, and also challenge their own assumptions about these stories, which many parents do, and they're almost smug in their assumption. And we have a generation of people who are almost proud of being ignorant. That is amazing.
Yeah. And what do you see as the role of grandparents in today's modern, mostly nuclear families? Because earlier they used to be the storytellers and the custodians of culture.
I think they have to live their own life. Honestly, parents have to live their own life, and the parents should not outsource parenting to grandparents. Our grandparents have done their bit. They have enjoyed. They should, I think, just go traveling, have fun, and leave, and enjoy the stupidities of their own children, and enjoy the fact that the parents are suffering with their children. This is what we suffered when we were young. So I think they should enjoy the new show.
So according to you, grandparents shouldn't play any role in the modern parenting and modern family.
They should observe what is happening and realize the mistakes they made and see them and hope that the mistakes are not being repeated.
And laugh at their own mistakes and what's
I
happening.
Guess so, yeah.
And finally, what from your study of so many characters and families across so many cultures and eras should be the real aim of parenting today?
I think to enable children to find a way to earn their own living. That's a fundamental. To be secure, so as not to make other people's lives miserable. And third is to appreciate the fact that all problems in life won't be solved, and they will make mistakes and failures, and be at peace with it.
Devdutt, thank you so much for making the whole of mythology so accessible to us. I'm sure a lot of parents, after listening to you, would be tempted to make a plunge into reading stories from mythology and make sense of it. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.